Guys, to Paula Peters from the Disabled People Against Cuts National Steering Group. DPAC has condemned the government for lavishing money on the military while continuing to attack. It's continuing to pursue its attack on support for deaf and disabled people by slashing PIP, and announced by Rachel Reeves' recent spring statement. So yeah, I want to say that Paula's been fighting against this government's cuts for a long time, and it's important to stand up against it. So please give a round of applause for Paula Peters.
I want to thank all of you for the invitation to speak to you all tonight. Some of what I'm going to say will shock you. And I'm going to call you to action at the end of what I'm about to say, especially to your MP, Sean Berry. Now, I'd like to begin by saying that the impact of the disability benefit cuts are going to be massive. What you will see is the final death knell of the welfare state as we know it. And I want to be clear on that. They're going to be voting on these cuts in Parliament in the next few weeks. What we need you to do is contact your MP, Sean Berry. She was at the mass lobby of Parliament last week, and tell her, don't vote for these cuts. If there is any councillor or any MP who votes for these disability benefit cuts, that's the end of their careers, and we must make that happen. It's not if we make it happen, we must make it happen. And MPs are being inundated with letters, emails, and when they're going around knocking on doors in their constituencies, there's two things that people are raising: the winter fuel allowance and disability benefit cuts. They're the two huge things that people are seriously angry about. And I want to be absolutely clear on something. What you're seeing in the media and what Labour has said, when they said the cuts to disability benefits of 4.5 billion, they're far more than that. And you've probably have heard of the researcher Ben Geiger, and he's done extensive research into what Rachel Reeves had said, and the cuts are actually 9 billion, not 4.5, and it's important to stress this. And from a report from Citizens Advice that actually came out today, over 900,000 disabled people will lose over 9,000 a year by 2029 to 30. And it's important to stress that. Nearly 1 million disabled people will lose over 9,000 a year. It's a lot of money, isn't it? And to make matters worse, the money that disabled people spend, well, it will impact on local economies by 8.1 billion that will be taken out of local economies. So that's a lot of local businesses will go, local services, and all the rest of it. And this is what Labour want. We've had 15 years of brutal Tory austerity, and we've been fighting that long. Many of us a long time before that. And here we are again with austerity 2.0 under a Labour government. And none of us sitting here tonight and across the country would believe that a Labour government would do this. But that's exactly what they're doing. And the cuts to PIP are absolutely devastating. You'll see 1.5 million disabled people impacted. And from a Freedom of Information request from a disability rights activist recently, 87% of disabled people who only score 2 points across the 10 descriptors will lose their PIP entitlement completely. Along with it, passported benefits of Carers Allowance or Carers top up on universal credit, bus passes, blue badges, and the health element of universal credit alongside it. But also when you lose your personal independence payments, what it'll impact on housing. Because for many disabled people in priority housing, waiting to be housed, it will also impact on that as well. So we're going to see homelessness absolutely just go absolutely into the stratosphere around this. And Starmer's thinking by altering disabled people's behaviour by doing this, he will move disabled people into the labour market. He won't. Many of the impact assessments on these have not been done. or the OBR forecast of employment, and from the DWP's own figures, by these cuts it will just get 3% of disabled people into work, and that is it. And you know, we're going to be seeing £47 a week cut from the health element of universal credit for new claims, frozen for existing claims for the next 5 years. Everyone will be reassessed under the WCA, and then in 2028 it will be abolished. It will then go over to a single assessment. You have to qualify under the strict criteria of PIP. You've got to score 4 points for one descriptor on daily living, and if you don't, you won't get PIP, you won't get the health element of UC, you won't get housing support, you won't get anything. You'll be out. But this is something that's been swept under the carpet that we need to talk about, because this will impact on workers. Contributions-based employment and support allowance and job seekers allowance will be merged to be replaced by unemployment social insurance. Let those words sink in. What social insurance? It's an American system where insurance companies actually have this system, and you will pay into this system over time, so that when you're too unwell to work, this will be in place. This will be time limited for 6 to 12 months, and everyone who's in receipt of this will be expected to look for work, be subjected to conditionality on sanctions. After that, if you still haven't got a job once this runs out, you'll be expected to claim for universal credit. And if you've got a partner working full-time, you own your own home, you've got some savings, you won't be able to apply for universal credit, you'll be out of the system. And that's what the government want. They don't want the system, they don't want you claiming, and it's basically you'll be working or you'll die. It's exactly how this will be. And we're also seeing alongside this, because this is Labour's absolute, whatever they're thinking, they're attacking access to work for disabled people. And many of you on social media may have seen the blog by Tourette's Hero. She had her own company, doing absolute brilliant work, Jess. She's just had her access to work support cut by 61%, and she's actually had to give up work in her company because she can't afford to pay her support worker anymore because she's lost her support. It's happening to tens of thousands of disabled people across the country in work who are now finding it absolutely impossible to continue. And this will be the same for PIP for disabled workers, that when they lose their PIP, they're not going to be able to continue working. They want disabled people into work, but they're taking the support away to help disabled people into work, and it's absolute ridiculousness. And these cuts will increase pressure on the NHS and local services, which are already on its knees. But by the huge cuts to PIP, which is counted as income when you have a social care assessment, once the PIP funding is taken away from disabled people, it will impact on local councils' money, and you will see more councils collapse, and it will be pretty much the end of local government as we pretty much see it at the moment. And, you know, what I will also say is this: running alongside all of the disability benefit cuts, we're seeing Labour's horrific push for the assisted dying bill that Kim Ledbetter is pushing through Parliament right now. And many of the safeguards that were through the committee stage were voted down. The bill has already now includes people with progressive conditions, mental health, if you've got a learning difficulty, and if you're anorexic. They've included in the bill that if you're a burden, a financial burden on your family, you can apply to die. Ledbetter wants to bring this in by 2029-30, and in 6 years' time, in 6 years after that, they will hope to save 90 million from the NHS, from state pensions, and from the benefits. Now do you see where they're going with it? It's all by design. There will not be choice for healthcare, because healthcare will be cut to pay for assisted dying. They're already making cuts to palliative care, to young persons' diabetic services, to talking therapies. That's the whole agenda. Abolish the NHS, abolish local services, abolish the welfare state. bring in social insurance, then they'll start means testing the state pension, then it'll be health insurance, and bang, then you'll have an American health system, American insurance system. You can afford to pay for services, you get it. If you can't, you won't. That's exactly where we're heading. I'm not making it up, we've done the research. But you've got to ask your MP this question. Why did Sian Berry vote for Kim Letter's bill at the second reading? Because she did. You've got to go back to her now and say to her, because the third reading will be on the 20th of June, tell her, this bill in its current state is incredibly dangerous. What we need to be fighting for is for the NHS, for our social care and for our local services. When we get that addressed, then we can talk about assisted dying, but now is not the time for a hideous bill like that. So we need all of you to contact your MP, but what we desperately need, because we're in a fight for our lives now and a fight for the right to exist, we need your solidarity. When DPAC calls an action, you join it. And on the 7th of June, in central London, will be the national demo for the People's Assembly. Come up to London, let's make this march absolutely massive, but from here, let's build the biggest bloody mass anti-austerity movement this country has ever seen and tell Starmer one incredible message. We want welfare, not warfare, and let's put an end to the defence spending, but we've got to build a massive movement and push back, because if we don't, there'll be nothing left. Thank you for having me. Speak to you all tonight.